And three, two, one. I am live. Hello, everyone. This is Mojo Blues, as well as many, many other nicknames. We'll leave that for now. This is the first time I've actually got YouTube working correctly, where I'm on air showing my gamer pick that the graphic god made for me. Yeah, I kind of like it. Anyway, after several failed attempts last night, actually Sunday night, I take that back. I got a little help from Mr. Boomstick XL. Thank you so much, as well as Mads from Mads Gaming Channel. Both gave me a little bit of help on getting this done so I could actually go live and not just be on my webcam. There will be times I do want to use my webcam when I'm going to be showing off various consoles, games, some vintage like stereo equipment, tube televisions. Yeah, I got multiple CRTs. I'm kind of into retro a little bit. I don't like to so much call it retro as the fact that I just like games and I don't care what system they're on or what era. If it's a good game, it's a good game. I keep it. Sometimes I go years and years, and then I'll go back and replay a game. But that's not why we're here today. This is more of an Xbox conversation because, yes, I am an Xbox guy. And we are live, and I have no way. I don't have chat up for some reason. And I don't have any way of texting this out. Yeah, so I don't believe anybody is really here. Well, I hit links, YouTube page, yeah, whatever. Yeah, this is all new. It's my first time after multiple failed attempts. So let's not forget that. That was pretty embarrassing on Sunday night. I even left a couple of them up on my page that, because of the camera where I was on there, it was pretty hideous. Back to Xbox. So let's get started. First off, let's go over this whole Remedy thing. Okay, Xbox never owned the IP. Remedy always owned the IP. Microsoft only had publishing rights. And they gave Remedy a really great deal back in the day. Remedy was coming off Max Payne. They were the hotness. Absolute hotness. And at that point in time, Microsoft was all about buying second-party games to be exclusive for Xbox. They gave them a 4-game deal. Okay? Hear that? 4. The first being Alan Wake. Excellent game. Maybe not great for Xbox because of just being a single player, more kind of like a PlayStation game. But it had its fan base. It didn't sell very well, though. I keep hearing people say, oh, it sold 5 million copies. Well, maybe now. But initially, it sucked. It was well under 1 million. They even put it as a pack-in with one of the later 360 models, one with a really big hard, I think with a 250 gigabyte hard drive, which I have or bought at the time. That's how I have a copy of Alan Wake. So Microsoft really didn't want a sequel of it. It did not sell well enough. Remedy actually shopped it around to multiple other publishers. I'm assuming nobody wanted to touch it, though, because they would have had to buy the publishing rights from Microsoft, as well as pay Remedy to make the game. So they couldn't get it made. Game 2 ended up just being the DLC American Nightmare. Okay, so they did release that as a standalone disc. It sold even worse, but they counted that as their second game as part of their contract. Again, really poor sales. Then they came up with Quantum Break, and actually, Remedy came to Microsoft saying, hey, you're Xbox One's coming. You know, you want us to do an Alan Wake 2, and Microsoft kind of steered them towards something different, which ended up being Quantum Break. It was a good idea. It was great on what Remedy wanted to do with it once they tucked the ball and started running. But things got a little out of control. It went way over budget. They had hired professional actors and they were filming all that. And then they ended up, I think, changing one actor out. Yeah, it cost them a lot of money. And it was late. Microsoft expected that to be a day one release with the Xbox One. And it didn't come out till a year and a half later. So they were a little bit pissed at Remedy for being way over budget and late. So that's why all that bad feelings and, you know, and then on Remedy's end, them not letting them do Alan Wake 2 because they basically held the game hostage because Microsoft had the publishing rights. But, well, there's money to be made. The companies are not, it's not that big a deal. Microsoft was nice enough to let the publishing rights go to Remedy. And for the fourth game of that original deal, that, what is it, Cross X? It's an Asian shooter that Microsoft's getting first on the Xbox. I think, however, it might maybe end up being a multiplayer, but they're doing a campaign, if you want to call them that. A single player version of the game. Their Remedy's doing that right now. So I don't know if they'll go live with the game first or if they'll wait till that's done. That they've not ever released the details. We just know that Remedy's making that for Xbox, and that's their fourth and final game of that original 4-game contract. It's not a big deal. Alan Wake posting rights going back. It's a good thing. Now, if they can get interest and get somebody to pay them to make the game, that's the whole thing with these devs. They want money. Everybody gets on Microsoft when these games don't sell. Oh, well, they should take a risk. Well, that's easy for some YouTuber to say. But when a game is anywhere from $10 to $30 million to get made or more, and you don't sell enough copies, yeah, that's Microsoft does play it a little bit safe, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Their money has always came from a more multiplayer aspect. They always push that heavy. And if that's something that you can't deal with, then maybe you should just be on PlayStation, not be worrying about Xbox and making videos bitching about Xbox. It gets a little old. Every single podcast, every single video certain people do, they cry. Yeah. Gets a little old. I don't expect that rah-rah for everything Microsoft does. I don't like everything they do. I don't play multiplayer games. Hey, yet I'm an Xbox guy. There's plenty of great single-player stuff on there. And I don't care if the game is multi-plat. It does not make that big a difference. And I do understand that exclusives do sell consoles. And I think it's important. I think Microsoft needs to wake up and understand that it's very important that they sell consoles. If they're going to keep that subscription base up, and that's where their money is, their services. Xbox Live Gold costs money, and they have a lot of people pay it. And with Game Pass now, they've got a nice little subscription base built up. They're trying to grow it, and eventually, with Live being mixed into there, and hopefully their xCloud stuff, and maybe you can do just Live, just Game Pass, just xCloud, or the combined up and save yourself a little money. That seems to be the way they're going. But it all starts with console sales. If they don't have a base of, you got to have more than 20 million. You just do. If you're going to sell games, and that's what they always talking about. That's why they say they don't care what you play your games on as long as you're playing their game. You're buying it for the PC. You're buying it for to stream to your cell phone or your that kind of thing. You still got to have that base. PC gamers going in droves to play Xbox games. They never have. Now that they're going to be on Steam, I think that was one huge step that was very important. As long as stuff was just on the Microsoft store for whatever reason, whether you can say, well, their storefront was crap, blah, 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 it just wasn't working. PC gamers just did not want to buy those games. But now that they're releasing everything and they're bangers, and yes, they have plenty of bangers, I'll take a Gears of War game over the Uncharted's any day. I don't want to. You can give me all the crap you want about it, but it's the truth. Gears is just amazing. And I don't play Gears online, competitive, and all that stuff. I just like the single player campaigns of it. And it stands up there with any of Sony's cinematic single player games. Does Microsoft need more? Yes, they need more of that type of game. And it's okay to let them know that. But again, the constant whining, crying, bitching, every podcast, every video, that's probably not helping. But I don't deny anybody the right to do whatever they want. And I'm mentioning anybody in particular because it's a lot. And it's not even the ones that probably pop into your head that I'm actually even talking about. There are many, many what I call so-called ponies that complain about what Xbox does constantly. Why? Yeah, that's a little bit weird. Why don't they just stay on PlayStation podcasts and shows? Because nobody watches those. Nobody cares about it. It's all about Xbox. I'm just telling you, it is. I will watch the shows. I've been in various chats and stuff, and it's always PlayStation guys are right there on the Xbox stuff. If you go to a PlayStation specific site, whether somebody's just dropping videos or they're doing podcasts, they're not talking about PlayStation stuff. They're talking about Xbox. Yeah, wow. That's enough on that. I did a little brief history of Remedy and that whole Alan Wake situation. A little bit about myself. Yeah, I'm an old guy. Whatever. I started with Pong in like 1976, maybe 75, 76, somewhere in there. My mom, God love her, she's passed away now. She brought home, she worked at Sears. She brought me home a Sears telegame system that was basically just Pong. And wow, I was the first one in the neighborhood that had a video game system. So yeah, everybody was at my house wanting to play Pong. And then a couple years later, she brought home another Sears telegame system, but this one was just a rebadged Atari 2600, and it took Atari cartridges. Amazing. 2600 now, they were more almost like playing arcade games, except not as good as arcade games. And while I was going to college for a couple of years there, I was working in an arcade. Pretty interesting. Got a lot of good stories from that, most of which I cannot tell live over YouTube. But anyway, it'd been a old school kind of pool hall, and they added in it was near a college campus, so they added in video games and some other things. So you had a weird mixture crowd. But I got to see all the original video game systems as they dropped, and that was pretty interesting. Got hooked on the what people now call shumps. You know, I think back then I called them spaceship shooters, but now they're just shoot 'em ups that eventually morphed into bullet hell games, which I don't really like the bullet hell games. And I'm just not that good. But anyway, ended up dropping out of college, joining the Air Force. It's all good. Spent the next 20 plus years living all over the world. Panama, Germany, Korea. I've been in over 100 countries. Throughout all this various time as new system drops, even if I was overseas, I was still able to get, whatever's the latest, greatest consoles. Sometimes it's a little rough getting games. I remember when I was down in Panama, at that time, I had a NES and a Genesis. Super Nintendo had not dropped yet. This was 1990. And a guy, PCS, permanent change of station, from Japan to Panama, consecutive overseas tour. Excellent. I did that myself later on. But he had a PC Engine, which they, not long after that, they started selling them as the TurboGrafx 16 in the States. But I don't think the TurboGrafx had actually released. Yeah, because I had a Genesis, and it came out the same time as the Genesis. So there was already the TurboGrafx in the States. But he brought over PC Engine, just the little one, no add-ons, no CD thing. And I ended up buying it from him because he couldn't get games down there and didn't want it anymore. He had a few games with it. And I found a way around, even though the base exchange, which is like, the military version of a Walmart, right on base, they only carried, a handful of the main console games, which at that time was NES and Genesis. They didn't have anything else. But I could use magazines and through mail order. And then there was some air crews that knew other air crews that actually regularly went to Japan, and I'd slip, one guy some money who would slip another guy my money and a little note with a list of games that I was wanting. And hopefully 2 months later, maybe even a little longer, somebody would, come walking in and, have 3 or 4 games for me. That was always interesting, worrying about whether or not I was going to get ripped off or I was going to get a bunch of crap games or what was actually on my list. But, I did that multiple times. Eventually sold that system, though. Big mistake. Although I rebought one later. I bought the PC Engine combined unit that has the CD in it. I think mine's the RX. But I got that much later down the road because it was just an 8-bit system. Even though I loved all those chumps that were on it, for whatever reason, I guess because of the Super Nintendo coming out and then the Sega CD, which I'd bought, and it's kind of hard to get games for everything, and I kind of just concentrated on, the Genesis, Sega CD, and the Super Nintendo, and kind of gave up on anything else at that time. But then eventually, I got a Saturn. Boom, same thing. Love those chumps on it. They're so amazing. I think it was the first time that true arcade quality games were out on a system. A few of those actually made it to the PlayStation 1, but not many. For what was getting released in the States on the PlayStation, kind of had to be 3D. Kind of the same thing for the Saturn. All the great releases were mostly done in Japan, all the straight-up arcade type games. After that, this is, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. I did skip the N64 because I was heartbroken that Nintendo gimped it. Even though it was 16 or 64-bit system, yeah, the data path was only at best 32-bit. And not having a CD-ROM drive, that was such a horrible mistake to stay with cartridges. They lost a lot of devs in. But they also learned that they didn't need to be number one anymore. That even with a smaller, player base, their game still sold quite well. And they didn't need all that third-party support. It was a fine line of, well, we need it, but we're getting by without it and still making money. So they kind of that's when they started going off in their own direction. Now, actually, with the GameCube, they jumped back and they made a maxed out system that could get more third-party support. But again, they gimped it with the mini CD proprietary disc. Yeah, that was not a good idea on Nintendo, but did hurt third-party support again, but not as bad as, say, for the N64 with the cartridge. And I definitely had a GameCube. Like I said, I skipped the N64, had a GameCube. Some point bought the original OG Xbox. Didn't care for the online stuff, but Microsoft was buying a lot of games for it. They jumped in, full steam ahead, and they did a good job. They got plenty of games, whether it be third party or even first party, everything was not online and multiplayer. So I really love the OG Xbox. The 360, they really went big time on the live and, shooter bro box, but still had a 360. Still had plenty of, it had so many games. It got so much third party support, and it became the de facto standard in that generation. Yes, it was. And I don't want to hear that crap about the PS3 code up at the end. Nobody was buying PS3 games. Xbox even got into the vernacular, movies, television. Hey, I'm going to play Xbox. I'm playing a video game system, or nobody says they're playing a PlayStation or they're playing the Sony. Everybody would just say, hey, I'm playing Xbox. Hey, let's play Xbox. 360 was an amazing bit of equipment. But then the one, wow. Then it got flipped completely, where the PS4 is now what is the main system of this generation. I have one. I have a Pro. I did buy it for the VR, though. To be honest, I had no intention of getting it. But I think now I might even pick up a base model towards the end of the generation, just so I'll have a way of playing all these games, as well as I know they'll work on the PS5. But I've got PS5 will be on a 4K television. I've got an older 1080p set, a couple older 1080p sets that I'll have OG Xbox One as well as a base model PS4 hooked to. And then I've got the X as well as the Anaconda, if they end up, well, who knows what they'll call it. I'm hoping the Xbox V, not 1V, but just Xbox V, because you got PlayStation 5, so it makes sense. But that's for another conversation. I just wanted to get this out here. It's finally working. I will post it on the channel. Hopefully somebody will check it out. I'll send out some links, because right now I'm just kind of stuck on this page and I don't have the links to tweet it out that I'm online, and I don't even have chat up with it. So there's more for me to learn, but I'm going to start putting up a lot of live events like this, as well as some recorded videos. It's not going to be gameplay footage. There's so many people that does that, and they do it so well that there's no reason for me to do it. It wouldn't be as good. My gameplay wouldn't be interesting. And I've seen other people who's been doing it that grab stuff from, it's not their gameplay. They're not stealing stuff, but they're just grabbing stuff like from Microsoft's E3 show, and they do a good job editing all that together. But it's, again, someone's already doing that. If it's not gameplay that's pertinent to what I would be talking about in the video, there's no reason for me to do it. So I'm going to have a mixture of recorded videos showing off like some vintage hi-fi equipment, movies. I have a Laserdisc player. It's in the thousands of amount of movies I got between Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K UHD. I've got a pretty sizable movie collection. So I'll probably split the channel up, and I'll keep my gaming stuff on my podcast, and I'm going to be looking for members for that. But that's going to be another video where I kind of reach out and try to get some people who are like-minded that want to be on what I'm calling the BDXP Best Damn Xbox podcast. Probably going to have to be on the weekends because I work crazy 12-hour shifts. I'm just off this week, so that's why I've been able to fool around with this stuff and finally get something on here. But I'm going to get that podcast up and going. Find some people who maybe haven't been on podcasts before would be nice. Maybe find a couple people who've been out in the community, for a while that want to be on it. So you get kind of a mix of new and old, as well as age-wise, young and old. Since I'm old, try to get some, younger people. maybe even, not just a bunch of guys, maybe hopefully get a female or two on there that, to get as many different points of views of various things. And there'll be live videos showing myself, or at least showing my gaming hub. I've got a camera setting up kind of behind me, so you'll be able to see like the back of my head to the side of my face. And then occasionally I'll switch to a front forward camera that's on my Surface Pro. And I'll be able to hold various things up to show and talk about. Hopefully the main thing is content, and not just content, but interesting content. And we'll see. Or will I just be lazy and not get enough stuff on there and just gotta fade away? That's possible too. Won't deny it. Right now, I'm actually on a full-time member on Mads Gaming's Next Gen podcast. We do it on Sundays. We were discussing going to the middle of the week, and I didn't think we were going to be on this Sunday, and so I ended up sleeping in. Normally, I make sure I'm up early enough for the podcast, but this week I didn't think we were doing it, so I didn't get up. And then, of course, Mads was ready to do it, and I wasn't. I was still in bed. But so whether we do one later on in the week, because he's actually been on vacation himself, I don't know, but we'll be back. Worst case scenario, we'll be back next Sunday on there. It's a good show. It's more tech based. It's really concentrating on these next gen consoles. We're still 16 months out. They're both going to drop in November of 2020. So it's we got a while to go. So there's plenty to talk about on them, and that's always interesting. So anybody that was on here while I was on live, thank you. Anybody who catches this later and wants to check it out, thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast now, and I'll be back live again soon, probably tomorrow afternoon. Maybe every day rest of this week, I'm going to pop on and pick one particular topic to drop some info on, and then let people get to know me a little better. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm out of here.